Okay, you guys, hear me out. Monkey D. Luffy is not the future Pirate King because Usopp is the future Pirate King. Just hear me out. Like, when you really think about it, it makes sense. Oda is known for wanting to surprise the fans, and what would be the biggest left field turn if it turned out that Luffy, one of the most iconic defining shonen protagonists of all time, actually wasn't the protagonist, but Usopp was this entire time. Plus, I mean, you know, Usopp is always talking about how he wants to be a great warrior of the sea. Well, what greater warrior of the sea could there be than the Pirate King himself? You guys, Oda is known for his foreshadowing, and this entire time, he's foreshadowing that Usopp is the actual Pirate King. You guys, Oda has the galaxy brain. It's real. It's real. It's foreshadowing. It's real. Something that I love about ongoing anime and manga is that when you have a series that plays out for an extended period of time, you're inevitably going to have fans speculating on the events that will unfold. And it's here that we get into the sheer chaos that is anime fan theories. If you've been in the anime community for long enough, there's a good chance that you've seen these theories be cooked up at least a few times. I mean, what else is there to do while you're waiting for new chapters and episodes to release? You know, people get antsy, and thus conversation and speculation are natural. This can result in some pretty wild theories. However, before we get into the more crazy ideas that have spawned from fans, I'd like to take a moment and first look at some theories that ended up being right. Yeah, I guess it can happen. I've always found instances like this hilarious because they're basically this meme personified. It just proves that sometimes fans are on the same wavelength as the creator. A great example of this being when Attack on Titan fans actually predicted that Dinah Fritz was the smiling Titan that ate Aaron's mom a chapter before it was revealed. I guess this wasn't that much of a stretch because they do have certain similarities side by side, but I mean, you know, I also wouldn't really blame anyone for not noticing these similarities. I mean, just look at this monstrosity.
It's hideous!
While we're on the topic of familial relations, it's also worth noting that several My Hero Academia fans were able to decipher that Dabi was actually Todoroki's older brother. I mean, already they both have fire powers, right? Though I guess with that same logic, you could say that Luffy and Mr. Fantastic are brothers. You know, I actually don't hate the sound of that. I actually think that that would be a pretty interesting show. Along with this, there was also the earlier revelation that Todoroki actually had two older brothers, both of which were seen as failures by Endeavor compared to Shoto. So it only felt natural to fans that given this resentment, one of those brothers could potentially become a villain. And while we're still on the topic of familial relations, God, this is like an episode of Maury at this point. Probably my favorite moment of fans accurately predicting something is when One Piece fans were able to determine that Sanji was of royal blood. This one in particular is my favorite because while the pieces were there, they weren't as obvious as something like Dabi being Todoroki's brother. Really, the biggest piece of information that fans had to go off of was that for some reason, while the other Straw Hats were wanted dead or alive, Sanji was wanted alive only. It was later revealed that this was because the royal Vinsmoke family, who Sanji ran away from, arranged his survival with the world government. I mean, even before the wanted poster, fans were speculating that Sanji could be a prince of some kind. We didn't know his backstory before he met Zeph, and there was a very subtle bit of foreshadowing when Sanji used the alias Mr. Prince on Alabasta. Plus, just Sanji's overall more gentlemanly demeanor kind of gave off the vibe that he could be royalty, even if he barely acts like it. All of these instances are really cool. However, I think the true meat and potatoes of anime fan theories are the ones that are a bit more out there. You know, the real conspiracy theories that will probably never be confirmed. And the reason I love these is that they can range from plausible to downright hilarious. For example, we have the infamous Ash Coma theory. So I'm willing to bet that most of us have probably seen Pokemon before. In the first episode, there's a scene where Pikachu defends Ash from a flock of Spearow with a massive Thunderbolt attack. Of course, after this, Ash is fine and he and Pikachu continue on their journey. Or do they? What if instead, when Ash got caught in Pikachu's attack, he actually fell into a coma? And the 1,000 plus episodes of Pokemon that have taken place over the past 28 years was actually a coma-induced dream. And Ash has been laying in a hospital bed this entire time. This is one of the oldest anime fan theories there is, and arguably one of the most popular. It's even led to other similar Coma theories emerging for other children's shows like Adventure Time. I mean, obviously it isn't true, I just think it's funny that such dark ideas can emerge from what is generally a pretty innocent anime for children. However, if we want to get into the realm of darker subjects, in that case we need to talk about this next theory. The idea that Light Yagami from Death Note becomes a Shinigami. In Death Note Relight, which is basically a retelling of the Death Note anime in film form, the movie opens in the Shinigami realm, where an unnamed Shinigami asks Ryuk to tell him the story of Light Yagami. Our theory comes into play with this unnamed Shinigami, who many believe to actually be Light Yagami reincarnated after his death at the end of the series. And there's a few things that could potentially point to this. One of the biggest being that this Shinigami is aware of the fact that Ryuk likes apples, despite Ryuk never having met him, something that Light would be more than aware of. There's also certain surface level details about this Shinigami that aligns with Light's aesthetics, such as the hair color, his coat being kind of similar to Light's clothes, his bandana somewhat resembling one of Light's ties, and his red eyes, a stylistic choice that would usually happen when Light was doing something especially nefarious. I, for one, love this theory. I just think it's really cool, but at the same time, it's kind of dubious whether or not it could actually be true. From what I can remember, it's explained that users of the Death Note, or really anyone in general if you read the manga, don't go to heaven or hell when they die. Rather, they kind of just diminish into a state of nothingness. They cease to exist, and it's never really implied that humans can become Shinigami, though you could also make the argument that Relight is kind of in its own little canon where not everything aligns. Plus, I mean, most of the Shinigami's existence seems to equate to nothingness, so it would still be kind of true in a sense. Whether it is true is kind of vague. I don't know. Maybe they could have made it more obvious by just giving him Light's hair or something. While we're talking about what is and isn't canon, another theory that I find incredibly fascinating is the theory that states that all of Hayao Miyazaki's films take place within the same world. And regardless of whether or not that was ever really Miyazaki's intention, I just think this theory is really fun. Already, all of Miyazaki's films have the same kind of vibe, and in some cases, even characters that could be argued as being the same. So it's not hard to see them all fitting together within the same world. But I can already hear what people are saying. Some movies seem to obviously be based on our world with locations like ancient Japan and the Adriatic Sea, while others take place in completely fictional settings like Castle in the Sky and Howl's Moving Castle. However, you're forgetting about the literal apocalypse that happens in Nausicaa that destroyed the world as we know it. So with that logic, the movies that seem like they're based in fictional places are actually the remnants of a post-apocalyptic event where humanity has rebuilt the world with different nations and technology. The reason why I actually find this theory thematically appropriate is because it kind of plays into Miyazaki's detestment of war, mistreatment of nature, and really a lot of modern life in general. That his films would end with a giant apocalypse that sends humanity back thousands of years. After nature finally takes its course, humanity begins to rebuild, and then they go straight back to war once again. It just feels like something he would write, so that's why this theory has always kind of stood out to me. However, all of these theories absolutely pale in comparison to what is the single greatest mystery in all of anime. A mystery that has sprouted more fan theories than any one fandom could ever rival. And I don't even need to say what it is, because you already know what it is. The question of, what is the One Piece? For 28 years, this question has gone unanswered, yet has been teased many times within the series. Of course, a massive amount of speculation is going to be revolving around this one question, and many theories have formed around it, with fans dedicating years upon years of their lives to trying to find the answer. One of the prevailing theories that I've seen is that the One Piece is actually a weapon that will be used to destroy the Red Line, the gigantic ring of land that wraps around the the Earth, and in conjunction with the Grand Line, separates the world into 4 sections. With the Red Line's destruction, this would mean all the world's oceans would flow as one, thus creating the all blue and finally connecting the world together. And I can kinda get that. After all, it was foreseen that Luffy would be the one to destroy Fishman Island, and where exactly is Fishman Island located? Right under Marie Joie, the capital of the world government that just so happens to be on the Red Line. Then of course you have the theory that the One Piece is actually a document chronicling all the events that happened within the Void Century, the 100-year time period in which no one is really aware of what happened in the world save for a select few. Some of the most popular theories I've seen, however, are the ones speculated by the One Piece YouTuber Artur. Links in the description if you want to check him out. One theory that I actually think does make quite a bit of sense is his theory that the One Piece is tied to the song Binks' Sake, a song that is regularly sung by pirates in One Piece. The theory is that this song is actually a coded message that details the events of the Void Century, and that the One Piece itself is a bottle of Binks' sake. Binks being another name for the enigmatic Joy Boy, who we still don't know all that much about. Theories as to what the One Piece is are always shifting. I mean, I think Artur's most recent theory is that the One Piece is a comic book or something? A literal thematic embodiment of the manga itself. There's just so many different ideas of what people think the One Piece may or may not be. I've even heard people say they think the One Piece is a literal One Piece swimsuit. You can't make this stuff up. I think all of these theories are honestly a testament to just how good Oda is at creating an enticing mystery. He's never given anyone obvious answers, more like kind of vague hints as to what the nature of the treasure itself is. But even then, it's still kind of weird. Like, we're supposed to believe that the One Piece is this thing that will shake the very core of the world itself once it's found. Yet apparently it's also something so hilarious that it made Roger and his crew laugh to tears when they found it. If you want my opinion, while I think it's definitely going to be something incredibly important to the overarching plot and probably related to the Void Century in some way, I also think it's going to be something really, really bizarre and even maybe a little underwhelming at first glance. It's been established at this point that Oda is someone that really loves surprising people in ways they don't expect. And I think his reveal of what the One Piece is will be the greatest example of that. Though I want to know what you guys think. What are some of your guys' favorite anime theories, and do you have any theories of your own? Let me know in the comments below. As always guys, if you liked what you saw, like and subscribe. Every little bit helps in growing the channel. And if you'd like to see more, we recently did a video on the most unhinged anime fans, so if you're interested, please go check it out. Again guys, thank you all so much, and I'll see you guys next time.